CCC, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. We are feeling good, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're
feeling amazing.
good.
I'm feeling 100%.
110%. Let's go, baby. Come on, cheers. Cheers. A quick cheers. Cheers. Thank you very much.
What are we cheersing to?
Thanks for being here.
To life.
We're here. We're thankful. We love Jesus. CCC. We talk everything that is Christian.
We are, yeah.
Let's just get straight into it.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah. Today we have a special guest.
We do.
And we're going to turn attention to this door over here. Drum roll. Come in, guest. Hey!
There he is.
There he is. Hello.
How you doing?
We are good.
Sorry, I was expecting somebody else. Who is this? Who is this stranger?
Why are you shocked?
Who is this? Who is this stranger?
That's after. That's the next one.
Oh, that's the next. That's another one. Okay, all right.
We'll just get him out of the way quick. All right?
Sure. All right. So, who are you and why are you here?
You asked me to come, so hopefully, I think it was you. No, my name's Doran Joubert, and I'm a local Adelaide pastor in the CBD. And I met you guys a few months ago, and I think you're pretty cool. And so, obviously, we're hanging out today to chat some things through.
Yeah.
To preface it, you have given me no background to what I'm talking about. So this is all off the cuff, as you said.
But that's kind of your job, though.
That's exactly right.
You get paid to do that, don't you?
That's exactly right.
To talk to people and
that's 100%
to pastor
right.
care for people. Well, he is a pastor for us, so there's a bit of a counselling session here.
Yeah, it's more for our catharsis.
This podcast.
I've always wanted to know, like, what does a pastor do? Like, I had a conversation with a non-Christian, right? And I go, man, like, pastors are busy. They're like, doing what? And I go, I don't know that
What's
well.
the job description?
So what's the job? What do you do?
That's fair enough. I think my in-laws are still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, right.
No, look, I think what a pastor does depends on both their gift set, depends on the movement they're a part of denominationally. I think it depends on the culture of the church they're serving at, even depends on where they are, where they live in Australia compared to the US, compared to wherever it is. So I think it depends wherever. For me, as a part of kind of the church that we serve and lead in, for me, my week is kind of broken up, I guess, into three areas. Probably I'd say a third is just around people, whether it be around leaders, whether it be around people, someone, had a family member that passed away last week. So working together on the funeral for that. But at the same time, spending time with leaders that are looking after a larger portion of groups and all those kinds of things. So there's kind of the people side to it. There's then, I would say, part of our church, we have obviously a global aspect to it. So there's kind of the meetings part to it, which I try to reduce to a real small. I got a small bit of ADHD, struggle to sit still for a long time. So, but we'll do kind of all our meetings, sometimes on Zoom globally, sometimes within our week. And we try to force that all into one day at our church, which is awesome. So you have 4 days for everything else, which is cool. And then obviously there's preparing the word. I've always loved preaching, but for me, probably the first part is where I like to be just in front of people, whether that be your leader of leaders or whether it be the person going through a crisis or in need of help. I'd say it's within those three, lots of different variations, but the people side is where I'll try sit the most. And that's different for different leaders. Some people love to be in meetings all week. That is not me.
Yeah.
So you guys get all the meetings done in one day, just try and smash it out.
Yeah, so we do, because it's globally and everyone's at different campuses all around Adelaide. So we've got 7 in Adelaide. We'll try all come together to our main kind of what we call a hub on a Wednesday. And we'll just go through them all. Campus pastors, all staff meeting, interns meetings. And the whole day is just stop-start of meetings.
Right.
Yeah, wow.
That's Wednesdays.
Yes.
Is today Wednesday? No,
today's Thursday.
Today's Thursday.
So that was all yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I'll run a couple of things with our own campus guys on a Tuesday, but I'm of a firm belief that no meeting should go longer than an hour. So
how do you keep it to an hour though? Because all the meetings I'm part of, it just gets blown out.
Yeah, I think that the longer I've done ministry, the more I've realized you just can't solve everything in a day.
Yeah.
It is just an absolute marathon, and it's the long game. And there'll always be another phone call tomorrow. There'll always be another meeting tomorrow. There'll always be something. And so I have the great benefit of starting very young in ministry. So I've just learned that, if you didn't bring it up in the first half an hour, it's definitely not as important as the thing you're bringing up an hour in.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore it's, that whole equation of what's urgent and what's important. We want to deal with what's important as much as we can, and a little less with what's kind of always urgent. Sometimes you don't have to talk about things, they just get solved. Like, I've got this bit of a pastoral trick that I do with some people where I don't return a phone call or a text straight away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not because of poor integrity, right? That's very important to me. But because I find by the end of the day, they've figured it out, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So it's a little bit of a self-imposed discipleship trick that I kind of use never for leaders of your age and like you, but for younger leaders.
Yeah.
They got to try and figure it out.
100%.
That's right.
It's a bit of a side note. I was talking to my mum about parenting because we've got a new baby in our family as a nephew, and for my mum a grandson. And we're sort of talking about how, in terms of discipling and disciplining kids, or like, if you're leading other people, sometimes you need to leave them in the deep end.
That's right.
You can't always guide people through everything. And I think that's actually a pretty fair point. Sometimes just allowing people to focus on that issue and then work on ways they can sort of sink or swim in it is helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And especially with parenting, is that it's sometimes less about instruction and it's more about example. I can try to help them as much as I can. But the truth is, I know I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. My 4-year-old just watches everything I do, and she'll replicate. I mean, it could depend on kids. She'll replicate what I do way more than what I tell her. So, I mean, that's like fundamental leadership, right?
Yeah.
But in reaction, she'll say how I react in anger,
Well, pastors get angry. I didn't know that.
Look, with the amount of roadworks in Adelaide, hey, anger's not a sin, right? It's slow to be anger.
That's right.
slow to be angry. So, no, the amount of roadworks in Adelaide.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, we're a growing city, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, I like the cranes. That's the most amount of cranes I've ever seen in Adelaide.
That's it.
So
keeps the economy going.
That's 100%.
it.
I'm just gonna throw one in the down the line.
Here we go.
In what areas would you like to see your church improve?
Oh, there's lots to it. Look, I think that the answer to that is multi-layered. Like there's so many different areas that I think we can grow in. I think we do an amazing job. I mean, as a church, we're 100 years old. As a campus, we're 15 years old.
The church is 100 years old.
Yeah. It was one of the very first churches in Australia. Okay. So it basically came out of a Smith Wigglesworth revival. And I think we're one of 5 in the country. So there's Bridge Church in Melbourne, which is now known as Numa, within our kind of ACC Pentecostal movement. Obviously, they'd be different outside of different movements. But yeah, there's a number of us. We are one of the absolute originals. And when we planted in Clemsek or Paradise, it was like the sticks.
Yeah.
And you'd never think that now. How to improve? That's a really good question. My wife's calling me.
No, it's okay.
I knew you should do that.
Did you need to take it?
No, she'll be right.
We can't stop.
She'll be right. She'll be right.
Yeah.
She's on her lunch break.
House on fire. Kids crying.
She's at work. So she works 2 minutes down the road from here. So she would actually walk past here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
If she would like to join us in 2 minutes, feel free.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think, how would we like it to improve? I think on a local level for our campus, one of the things, there's a few things. I'm naturally very passionate about discipleship. So I think that could be a 9 out of 10, and I could always think it needs to improve. Over the years, I've become less, I love God's word and preaching it. That's great. And I love all the programs and departments we do. But for me, as I said, the people side's massive. And so discipleship of people and leaders and seeing everyone take a step forward, I think we could improve with that. Not just hugging and, but actually really teaching people kind of what we're talking about as well. And so I think that's really important. One of the things I really feel at the moment for City is, for our campus again, is a real outward kind of focus. And I just feel like we're having little opportunities drop at our door where we can bless our community and bless different organizations and charities, and so I think that I'm passionate about people being filled up so they can give out. And I think we've got a renewed kind of opportunity for that in the season 2. So look, for me, my passion is discipleship, so I think that can improve. And then number 2, just having an outward focus, not just being a Christian club that does an hour and a half on a Sunday, but going out there and really making a difference, and all that kind of stuff. So I can preach all day. I won't. Does that answer? Is that helpful?
That is helpful.
What do you think?
What's an area? How long have you guys been? So you've been at City you've been at our church for 6 months?
No, you've been there for longer.
8
months?
or 9, something like that.
I reckon I've only been there for 3.
Yep,
3 months. Some of it newer.
Yeah.
But like, this is also our church as well. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Go. I want to hear.
I'm actually really keen to hear what
get my notepad out.
Right. Okay. Sure. Look.
Do you know?
He just brings out this essay and it's like, well,
I think this is what we prepared earlier. I think this. I think that sometimes I'm very conscious of this. Again, especially, I think I've been in ministry now 12 years. Sometimes we have our meetings, and my wife's great at this because my wife works as a social worker, right? Kids with cancer, and we'll often talk about things in meetings. And she's amazing because she'll bring it back down to reality where you realize you can be in a bubble. And so it's actually really valuable to get opinions outside of just other campus pastors or people that are in ministry, because every perspective is valuable, right? And so, look, I'm always open to my wife's input, so I'm open to yours.
Yeah, right.
Shoot, HE.
Yeah, so with I guess, voicing any kind of opinion within a church or any group of people, I think it's really important that it comes from a good place, right? Yes. So, what I'm about to suggest is, it comes from a place of, I guess, care and love, right?
Yeah.
And some elements of patience is attributable to that.
Yes,
I think it's ludicrous to expect that, or even some ways delusional to expect someone to come to a new church and they go, yeah, everything's like daisies and bells and whistles here. And I think that's a wrong view to have when somebody goes to a church, is that, hey, I've got a checklist and this has filled the most amount of those items.
Yes.
Rather than that, there are areas that I feel that I can be of service here, but that I can be of growth and together with the congregation.
Yeah.
Obviously a good hook to bring that in is to have a solid community, which I would say, ranks quite highly within our church, which has been very positive. And in many ways, I can see that. Like, one thing I really appreciate about my conversation with the management of the church, namely you, is that there are churches out there that identify their shortcomings, but then it's kind of like they see it and they just sort of sometimes they won't even acknowledge it. Sometimes they just lets it be. Yeah. But I've seen some of the weaknesses being vocalized from you and actually being addressed by you as well. And I thought, okay, even if that's not perfect, that's okay. Yeah. That people know this is going on and we're working towards it. Long story short, I want to open up the Bible in the small groups, right?
Yes.
So the other end of the spectrum is Bible bashing till the cows come home, or till Jesus comes home.
Yes.
Really. And then the other end is, let's build on a relationship and let's forever do that.
Yeah.
And then, a year will pass and then new people will come in and then we got to rebuild that relationship again until we can open up the Bible. I think Bible can be a foundation of the relationship as well, especially for Christians. Yeah. And so I guess some more intention around that, I think, could actually help the current agenda, which is to build a strong community and form discipleship to occur. So we're in a reasonably sensitive group, I'd say. We're in a university group where probably the relational aspect probably needs a bit more nurturing.
Yes.
Which is kind of what the
emphasis has been. And so I am willing to be patient around that. I mean, I'm not sitting here and go, therefore I would like Bible open this week.
Yes.
No. And I just think that these opportunities are there, and I guess a little bit more conscious leaning into, I think would be incredibly helpful for not only for the sake of just reading the Bible, but also for the sake of deepening our relationship with each other.
Yeah, totally.
Because we can have similar interest in the discipline that we study, because we're among uni students. We're not uni students ourselves, of course, or we can talk about the cool stuff that we do and exchange our lives. But more importantly is is how can we truly deepen that relationship beyond our relationship that we would have
for sure.
outside of the church with non-Christians.
For
So how do we
sure.
become brothers and sisters, I think, is a key.
Mm.
And I think God really needs to speak directly his word
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
we are quite intentional, I'd say. Even in our conversation over dinner and stuff like that, we try to
We're
broach
trying
the
to
topic
spark
of
that.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Spark
Yeah, that's
that.
good.
Because obviously, like we don't want to just be people. The reason I asked you this question as well is because like it is our church. Like we're family, so we're not just passengers on this train.
No, that's
we're,
right.
we're active participants, and obviously in a family where you care about, you want to enact change and bring some culture to it.
Mm.
But I kind of agree with that. I think it has to be a little bit of a difference between it just being a club.
Yeah.
Like you said, and we don't want to just be one for an hour and a half on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's
but then we
right.
also don't want to just be a club that's any other club. Like there is a bit of a difference for us as a church, is that we believe in Jesus and
yeah.
we understand that the authority of the Bible holds true.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
we want to be having a group or an environment that is molded by that.
Yeah.
An example that I think of in the Bible is with Peter and the Ethiopian
Yes.
priest. Is they literally just met. He was looking at this, he didn't understand what was going on, and Peter explains to him the gospel. He becomes a Christian. That's an
amazing.
example of someone who they just met. They didn't really have a relationship before. They didn't know each other at all.
Yeah.
Open up God's word and was transformed by it. So
Awesome.
I am a firm believer that relationships matter. I don't think you should just
absolutely.
open up the
Yeah.
Bible and say like, hey, this is it, believe it. I'm a firm believer that relationships has to come through and that it takes time. And the linear path that we see of when someone becomes a Christian is very different to how God would view it.
Yeah, that's right.
And we've got to understand that he's got his
right.
his timing with everyone.
Yeah.
But there is a need for us to actually go like, yo, this word is authority in our life.
Mm.
Yeah, it has to be. I think I think it's super important. I think there's a few thoughts around it. I think one of the things I'm as a leader, and I am thankful because I know our senior pastors, Pastor Ashley and Jane, are the same, is they are incredibly releasing leaders. And so I've found that to be in my DNA as a leader as well. And so I would very rarely say no to someone. It could be a not yet, let's sit on discipleship. I'll tell you why I'm saying this in a sec. So I would say I'm very releasing. So I find if anyone is ever passionate about anything within our house, I will do whatever I can to release them, cheer them, equip them, help them do. It's the goal is not for them to serve my vision. The goal is them to do what God's called them to do, and for me to encourage them in that. And the chances are that will align within our hearts if we're within the same house, right? So I say that all to say that if people have a passion, I'm going to do whatever I can to release them into it. So the thing about Christians, people in general, is they are just spectrum people. So you have people that are 100% passionate about relationship, and then you have people that are 100% about the word, and then you've got all these bits in the middle of it, and it's on every issue. It's anti-vax, it's vax, it's climate change. It doesn't matter what it is, and as Christians, we have that spiritual sensitivity attached to it, so it's that little bit more important. I would argue that, right? So I look at our connect groups within our campus. We have 27, not including our youth ministry, right? Those range on days, hours they meet, what we would call koinonia, which is relationship amongst each other, which we understand.
What was that word?
Koinonia, which is what we read the disciples did. They koinonia. It's another word for fellowship, right?
Okay.
Pretty sure it's the Greek word for fellowship. So it's around food, family, and God's word.
Yes.
Right? It's one of our 6 core principles, right? So across those 27 connect groups, you have them ranging on date, time,
location,
from board games to, from Bible college subjects, doctrine, Old Testament survey, they range from whatever it is. So I say if someone's passionate about something, let's release them in it. And like everything rises and falls on leadership. So I think as that passion grows within you, as everyone else has growing passions, it will become something that you will most likely lead within time, a group that is focused on that. And it will be my responsibility at that time to cheer you guys on, to make sure everything's aligned, but I know it would be. But I think the time will come where you'll most likely lead a group that will do that, because that's on your heart. That's what you're passionate about. And the group that you're in now, for example, might stay largely relationship kind of based, which we understand. If students are coming in through university, they've left their family, that's where the deficit is. You know, they can do Theos U at home, but at the end of the day, their family's back in another country.
That's right, yeah.
Their deficit is not in study. Their deficit is largely within relationship, which is why as a ministry, our university ministry can focus there.
Yeah. And I think that's something we've kind of identified. That's where that ministry leans into.
Yeah.
And like you were saying before, HT, I think a big thing that we've talked about as well is just being patient with it.
Yeah.
Because we've got expectations and ideas of where we think it would go, and sometimes the reality doesn't align, but that's also okay.
Yeah.
And that's what they always say, your frustration is your allocation as well. And so it's not just what excites you, but what frustrates you that points to your purpose. And so you'll have patience, but the frustration could grow. But frustration's a great way of pushing you into stepping out and doing something. Because you know what I find? This is one of the hardest things in church. Is you have a lot of people that have opinion or feedback or input. As you can see, I'm open to it. But then the time comes to go, hey, let's do something about it. Oh, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, right? You don't want to put skin in the game, right? But you don't like how it's being coached, right?
Yeah.
And I would say between the age of 20 to 30, they master that. Professional commentators, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're not in the game. Like, so my prayer for, a young adult generation is, you know what, please perceive and feedback, and let's make this better. It's God's house. It deserves the best.
100%, yeah.
But hey, when the opportunity comes for you to play a part, put your hand up, right? Because that's how we do this together,
Definitely. That is probably one of my biggest frustrations, I think, amongst Christians. I wouldn't even say just younger Christians. I think it's across the board. Is that this idea that like we said before, passengers on the trains, like no, like you're not spectators. You're playing the game.
That's right.
And like we all need to understand that and play our role.
Yes.
And everyone's role is different. Like one person's role is to be the preacher.
Yes. Yeah.
The others is to serve water to people who need it. Like that's all incredibly important. And I think having a church that showcases that is important as well. And that's
massively
a big thing I like about our church as well, is that there's so many different things you can do for ministry, but like we don't just go, the people at the front are the most important people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And like we've just got to keep having that culture where we encourage that, when you're at the front and you go like, the kids ministry team, like let's just heap some praise on them. The people that are looking after the kids that are vomiting and running around all crazy, like let's just thank them for that.
And
role.
that's super intentional when we do that. That's something we don't think about on Tuesday before Sunday. We've planned that out. I plan our kind of years within the master plan that I'm given 3 months at a time. Because I guess naturally the calendars and seasons, and so we look at the seasons and we do that on purpose. But I like what you're saying. I mean,
That's right.
It must be spiritual,
Yeah. must be Jesus.
Looks like heaven.
You'd hope so. Absolutely. That's what it is.
I want to switch things up a bit to ask more about you as a person, because you're so representative of a group of people that I'm guessing you're always asked about the church.
Yeah.
I've always been intrigued at as pastors and their sort of standing within not just the church within itself, but outside of church. I want to ask, do you have any non-Christian friends?
Yes.
Tell us about them.
Do you have any friends?
And
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Do you have any friends outside of church?
If I did, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I think I definitely do. One of the hard things I find is my greatest friendships are those that are in the trench with me. And, when bombs are going off and those that are next to me fighting in the trenches, we share something. Again, it's that spiritual bond, right?
Yeah.
So I got 2 or 3 kind of friends that are on staff that they're Christians and they're pastors, but that's because we live the same life. We're in the trench next to each other every day, as anyone would in their workplace.
Your colleagues,
right?
Yeah.
But I have always tried to set myself up with non-Christians for sure. I mean, Jesus was a friend of sinners, right?
Just a quick one there. Do you think other pastors make that similar level of effort? Have you seen that?
I think it's based on personality. I know introverts that have 2 relationships are enough and they tend to be Christian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on stage of life. I think it depends on everything. I think if I'm even just thinking across our team, it just ranges based on personality, stage of life, giftings, size of family, where they live, regionally, closer. For me, I've got family that are unsaved. And so, but we have an amazing relationship with, and they think church is pretty amazing because they've seen it through us.
Yeah.
They care for our kids. So we've got family there that they'll come to dedications and it's like a whole new world for them. That's actually the hardest service for me to preach is when they come.
Yeah, right.
Right, because they'll come for a child dedication or Easter. And it's so different, again, when you've got family in that room. Man, you're sensitive. You're if there's ever a time you're seeker friendly, it's in those meetings.
Yeah.
No, I've got family that are unsaved. I've got, I used to play soccer when I was young. When we started having kids, I was like, I have to have an outlet for me again. So I tend to have fads where I'll go through kind of squash or whatever it is. But I started playing soccer again. And that was amazing. I don't know if I ever told you this story. We basically, I did the whole season without them knowing I was a pastor because I was like, I just want one place where they don't know I'm a pastor, right?
Yeah.
I know that's probably sacrilegious to say that. Right? Anyway, we get to the last game of the season. And we're in the team huddle before we're about to kind of go, on 3, go, whatever it is. One of the guys goes, what are you preaching on tomorrow, right? And I was like, and everyone's looking at me and he's like, what are you preaching on tomorrow? I saw on your social media that you were preaching and you were really excited. And I don't often post about it because I feel like at church we say the same thing over and over. Excited for the Sunday. It's no longer exciting anymore. Right? Anyway, side story. Anyway, so I ended up telling him, but what I didn't realize is his church had closed during COVID. It was a small plant in the city and he'd been looking for one with his fiance.
Yeah.
And so that Sunday he actually came along, hadn't been to church for a while. They're rededicated. And he was part of our church and then happened to move down north. And so we connected him with another church there that's not actually ours, but just people that I knew. And so they're kind of back in church. And so problem with that is he kind of brought another couple of friends while he was still at our church.
Yeah,
they
right.
kind of made a decision. And then so our team started getting saved. Right? I was like, God, this is not what I wanted. I just want to play soccer with it. They're not around it, because you're kind of doing drills and they're asking, what's for lunch the next day and what are you preaching on and who's leading worship? And you're like, And so now our teams, the other thing we've stacked our team with this year is we have heaps of South Americans that are coming to Adelaide.
Yeah, right.
They've changed what skills they're looking for, this kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm probably talking too much. Anyway, so now I filled our whole team with Brazilians.
Yeah.
So no one's getting saved. It's full of Christians, but we're the best team in the league now because everyone's unreal.
Yeah.
So what I'll,
They're probably playing in World Cup coming up.
Yeah, that's right. I was saying to Mel the other day, I was like, when the season finishes, I think I'm going to do some club squash because I did that with one of my mates for a while. And I'm like, so that I'll probably go back into an area where there's no Christians. The other thing, as I said, my wife isn't in ministry. I think there will be a time where she does step into it vocationally. So obviously we do everything together.
Yeah.
I believe we're one person. So, but she keeps it real for me all the time.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
As I said, she was listening to our Zooms during COVID. She's like, is that what you guys talk about? Oh man, maybe we are, going down the Christianese way. So God kind of puts them around you and, it helps. Yeah, I definitely try to surround myself with a combination of super wise pastors that are mentors to me, ranging to people that have no relationship with God. But hopefully I can be a great friend to them. Friendship is one of the best ways to evangelize.
Absolutely.
You know?
Of course.
So
100%.
the whole people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care kind of scenario. So
That's right. So with these non-Christian friends that you have, well, my next question was going to be like, how intentional do you get and have you gotten with them?
Yes.
Clearly you don't want to be intentional. You just want to play ball.
It goes in waves.
I just want to play soccer, man.
Oh, it goes in waves. Look, obviously I'm always with them. It's around sport. So we or it's family. So it's around kind of just family birthdays and stuff like that. But it does tend to kind of branch into other different things. You know, it might be a soccer game that we go see or a basketball game that we go see, or someone might buy FIFA. So we're all around there. I'm not as like strategic when it comes to, I feel like my mind's very strategic in leadership, but you can't have your brain in that the whole day.
Yeah,
you'd be
true.
exhausted, right? So when it comes to relationship, I'm not as strategic about it. I'm kind of just as it flows and comes, and what God puts in front of me, and where there's connection and all that kind of stuff. And it tends to kind of grow generally more out of crisis than fun. You know, someone breaks up with someone, you know, or something's going on in their family. I can see someone put something up, you know, the other day, you know, that there was just stuff that was happening in their family, so I could reach out, you know, and that's when you start, when the doors start opening. Can I pray for you? Actually, you know what? I'd love you if you could do that. Love it if you could do that. And so you'll have an opportunity to do that. And then from that, you're hoping that they, to an extent, feel the presence of God. And then that starts creating questions. And what is that? What does that mean? And so I'm a bit go with the flow when it comes to friendship. Yeah. Strategic in leadership, but go with the flow with just friends. You know, I'm not going to take them to Thor and have a big apologetics conversation in the foyer with them. We're just there to see a movie and eat some food.
Yeah, 100%. I think you can get too like bogged down in trying to evangelize. But I think something I've always found interesting is like when a person who's a pastor, like, do they introduce themselves as a pastor
Never.
Or as a Christian?
No,
you know what I mean?
Never.
Because like your identity obviously is more in you being a Christian. Pastor is just a job role, really.
Yeah, that's right. It's only one of the five, right? You know, if we talk fivefold, I'm, you know, I always used to get frustrated when I did those fivefold ministry giftings, because I used to come up, like the test I used to do, I'd come up equal in all of them, and I used to get really frustrated.
Oh, the test we did,
prophetic, evangelist, or whatever they are. Obviously, you've got you got the different sets of it. I used to get really frustrated, and then one day someone said to me, you know, they encouraged, because I was like, you know, when you're young, you try to figure out what are you, right?
Yeah.
But someone just encouraged me. They're like, if you're equal in that, that's just evidence of a fivefold ministry in you, you know? And so there's some scenarios where I'm pastor, there's some where I'm evangelist, like we just spoke about. There's some where I'm teacher, there's, you know, and so, no, I don't, in our movement, you know, there are movements that are, that respect is really important, and I can understand that. And there are movements where, you know, it's not kind of put before everything. And so, and our movement tends to kind of steer towards that. And with that comes great things. People feel a genuineness and an authenticity about you, but it can often bring a familiarity where people, you know, you're not their pastor, you're now their friend, and now there's confusion. And, you know, so I think with it brings both challenge and great things too. But no, I don't refer to myself as that. And if, you know, like if people will say Pastor Doran on Sunday, I'm not going to correct them, you know. But if there's people we're doing life with, like our youth pastor, I don't know if you listen to this, but his wife will often call us Pastor Doran and Mel, and I'm like, we do life together. You don't have to call me that. Like, it's just, you know, yeah. So I mean, again, that might depend on different people, and again, age and
culture,
stage, culture.
Yeah.
Within our campus, it's so multicultural.
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
Anyone from Southeast Asia that's always there.
That
But I served in a campus prior to that, and it was all Australians, you know, and so it was never there.
So,
DOS. That's right.
Does
Honestly, I don't think it's as important.
What? Oh, sorry. We're gonna ask a question.
No, you go. Yeah.
What was the hardest thing that you've had to do in ministry or getting into ministry?
Oh, that's a big question. The hardest thing, there's a few of them. The hardest thing was stepping into ministry. I've shared about it before. I was at the end of I got saved halfway through a psychology degree. Stepped into psychology because of dysfunction in my family. My brother had been addicted to drugs and all kinds of things. And so I stepped into it, kind of rededicated my life in the middle of it. I come from a very traditional home that focuses on education. So when just crazy circumstances came for me to step into ministry part-time, I did that for a while, but then realized I needed to get Bible college. Like I needed to have some doctrine in me, right? And so the time came where I either did honors and psych to go all the way and do your master's after that, or I go to Bible college part-time and step into ministry.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I had family not talk to me for ages. And that was one of the hardest things, because that is that's a whole drop your nets and follow me. Drop everything you're familiar with. That was really hard because at a young age, you don't have the EQ to really get around it. All those things are important. The approval of your parents. That was hard. The thing I find hardest is that was a circumstance. Something ongoing that I find hard is when you believe in the potential of people, when you really want to cheer them on, release them into what they're passionate about, see future over them, and through different scenarios, they step away from it or they detach. And it's hard because you feel like you invest so much into them so that they can give back to you. But the best thing is seeing them come alive and then it just doesn't happen.
Yes.
It's disappointing because you've spent time, but it's more disappointing that they're not fulfilling what God's called them to do. And that's definitely, without a doubt, one of the hardest things to watch, because that happens every year of ministry. I mean, and you just know that they could have more. Yeah. And sometimes it can feel like there's more people that kind of rise, but fall compared to people that rise, step into what God has for them. And so a lot of people struggle in ministry because the ratio can be imbalanced. So that's one. The one was like one big thing. That's more just niggle. And eventually you can get wary because you can feel like, man, am I making a difference? Yeah. But as you kind of do ministry longer and, you grow in your emotional intelligence, you learn how to serve people and have connection, but not get so attached that it ruins you when if they ruin themselves, Yeah. So people always come back as well. It's funny. People, like you said, it's not linear, is it? Sometimes it's one step forward, two steps
sideways.
Otherwise, sideways. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a dance.
It's a samba dance.
Yeah, that's true.
We've only just got one question just to finish up.
Yeah.
Interesting thing, I asked you what your age was before. You're sort of at this point where you're obviously a little bit older than your uni young adults, but you're not.
Yes.
You're not heaps down the track, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're not too old, but you're not too young.
Yep.
What is a piece of advice you'd give to young Christians, like uni young adults age? What's the concern that you see in that younger generation, and what's a piece of advice that you'd give to them, to us?
Yeah, that's really good. How old are you guys?
I'm 28.
28.
26.
26. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Okay. I think there's a few things. I think there's heaps I would say.
Take your time.
I'm on a little bit of a bent on the moment of what we were talking about before about professional commentators, and within that young adult generation, I just think that's huge. People that have every opinion in the world, right? But again, just aren't on the field, and we'll create memes about it, we'll write about it, but it's like, just show me where you've been fruitful and show me where you've sown and show me that you've stuck with something long enough. I've people that constantly speak into my life, but they're all people that have proven it right? Just in multiple areas, like in family, in ministry, in life, in finance, and I just think young adults want platform without going through any process, I preached about the other day, didn't I, about the voice of God. People want to hear the voice, but they don't always like the choice, I don't want to rhyme. I don't want to be that pastor, right? But
too late.
Yeah.
I just went on a meme. But I think that's, everyone wants the promise, but not the process. They want, and particularly within that age group, they want all these things. And that's why we see so many university students start a degree, change halfway, start a degree, and you get to that end of 4 years with no kind of qualification, right? And so one of the things I'm thankful for is I feel like I went all in at 21. I dropped my nets. For me, it was ministry. I'm not saying everyone needs to do that. They need to do what God's called them to do, right? But whatever it is, do your best to hear from God and go all in, and do the process, like accept the cost, all those kinds of things before you kind of start speaking into those places. I've never. I was saying this to someone else the other day in ministry. I've never asked for a position in ministry. I didn't ask to be a campus pastor. I've never asked for a promotion. I've always been asked to step into something. And I feel like that's because I've always given, I feel like that's my personality. I give all that I have.
Yeah.
Like relationally, I'll give all that I have. I'll do my absolute best to go all in. I don't have a lot of boundaries. I could probably have more, but I go all in, but I feel like I'm doing all I can, so God kind of handles the rest. So for young adults, I would just say, hear from God, go all in on what He's called you to do, on whether it's the God dream, whatever it is, and just be careful not to get caught commentating, opinion giving, all that kind of stuff. So I've seen young adults, and there were people before me that I think were great role models at this.
Yeah.
They just went all in. And that's how you have to do this Christian faith, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like 9 commandments and forget 10, right?
Yeah.
It's 99% obedience is not obedience, right? I'm preaching on that on Sunday. And so I'm just a big fan of going all in. I always say this to young pastors again, fire always falls on sacrifice. You can't have the fire without the sacrifice.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So again, that's again to young adults. They want those God encounters, but they came at a great cost. You look at leaders throughout the Bible, so I could talk about it forever.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, I think that's
very
really
helpful.
handy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it hit me right here as well. Yeah, it's deep.
Definitely.
I just want to ask one last burning question, right?
Go.
Let's say a non-Christian has made it this far in the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. You are a pastor.
Yes.
And they ask, what do you believe in and why do you believe in it? What would you say?
Oh, there you go. Look, I believe in salvation through faith. That's the Christian answer. If it was a non-Christian that was listening all the way to the end, I'd say I just believe in Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life, and made a decision to, have a relationship with Him and spend time with Him and anything to do with Him. And it changed my life. I remember when I first got saved, before I used to swear like crazy. I remember like a couple of weeks after getting saved, someone said to me, you haven't sworn for like 2 weeks. And I was like, and I used to be bad, right? Really bad. And I was like, I haven't, right? And now that's not name shaming people that swear. I play soccer with people that drop it like it's no tomorrow, right? But that was it. It was weird because I put my hand up and said, like in one of those older calls where you're like, why do I have to put my hand up? But I did it, right? So I want Jesus in my life. And then swearing stopped. And then all of a sudden I found myself with that little bit more joy. And then all of a sudden I found myself with purpose. And all of a sudden, and so it's not about the swearing, it's about the fact that all these things started changing. Now we know this is sanctification, right?
Yeah.
But it's just this idea. I was slowly becoming more like Jesus and I loved who I was turning into. And so I think for someone that's a non-Christian hearing that, you got to come to that point where you come to the end of yourselves, come to the end of yourself and go, I wonder if there's more to it.
Yeah.
And it starts with that step of faith. And then over time, if you go all in, it's like, wow, God's actually changing me. Like, it's amazing, you know? And the things dropping off. I wasn't trying not to swear. I just didn't, right? I mean, doesn't mean I'm perfect today. I still got things, but stuff was changing and I couldn't even describe why. It's only now that I've, you know, spent enough time to realize, wow, like the Holy Spirit's doing something in me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And all I said I wanted to be was be a little bit more like Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and have what he has, grace and all those things. They're amazing. You know? So
Amen.
Fantastic.
hopefully.
Well, CCC.
Thanks for joining us.
See ya.
Peace.
Catch you next time.